welcome guys to the Metaforecast. You are with myself, the Metaforest, Haroon and Noor, and we're actually in Noor's mansion.
Shut up.
So we're in Noor's Manor in West London.
West of West.
Buckinghamshire
In the Shires.
In the Shires.
Yeah, technically.
Why are we here today?
Well, we're here to talk about you because you're vain. And technically, I think low-key, I think Noor should have her own podcast because like she's just been doing great. Don't you think? Don't you think you should have a podcast one time?
I love the
chatting?
podcast space. I love the talking, but I also, my podcast, every podcast would have to end with, but I don't know shit, because I don't know shit.
You're
so
like Shaq. You're like
I don't
Shaq.
know, what do you mean?
Because when I interviewed him for mine, he said, my opinion might change. Like, he kept saying, this is my opinion now, but it might change later. So really, it's his version of saying, I don't know shit.
But it's true though. It's true that I feel like we have to stay, because I think when you say stagnant on like I am this or I am, even if because it can be positive or negative, you could say like I am too kind, and now you're just a pushover forever, or I've been too kind in the past. Yeah. What can I do in future to resolve this? Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, which is, and that could be with anything. Like, like people just accept that they're angry people, and it's like, no, you're not an angry person. Like, you've displayed yourself angrily in many occasions.
When
before,
people say, "It's who I am."
Yeah, I don't like that though. I don't. Yeah, no, it's not who you are. It's who you are. Telling yourself every single day to keep being, basically. I love these covers, man. I can't stop staring at them.
I am. My brother did these, by the way. So.
Yo, cold.
You know what's mad? My brother's got his name on a book before I do. I don't know. I'm so jealous. Like, man's got his name in there.
That's
like,
so sick.
Yeah.
No, they're beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Like,
so just for the camera here and here.
Yeah. He even did the
bookmarks
as well.
Cool.
Yeah, so the bookmark, one side we've got a remote because press play to.
That's it.
But also the other one. So almost like it's a cinema ticket stub, but for the actual launch party that we did back in September, which you weren't able to. But it wasn't your fault. There were train strikes.
It was in fucking South.
I was standing at a train station for 2 hours.
I got your message.
Literally, I was there. And do you know what? I took my friend who wasn't even a poet, and she's like, no, let's go home. I was like, no, we have to wait. She's like, there are no trains coming.
Did you guys at least get food or just to make up for it?
We got sushi and then we went home.
Oh no. I mean, it was a good event. Like, I mean, you can watch the book launch on Haroon's channel.
It looked absolutely beautiful. Yeah. It honestly was absolutely stunning. It was cultural, but it was connected.
Oh, did you manage to watch the video as well?
Yeah, it was absolutely stunning. And I was watching people's stories, like when everybody was there as well. It was stunning. I think it was absolutely. It was intimate. It was beautiful. I think it was.
It was also really warm and stuffy in there.
Oh, it was hot.
That was everyone's hearts.
No, don't get me wrong. It was a very heartfelt day. There was no ventilation or air conditioning in the venue.
We couldn't see that. And I guess there were dancers as well.
Soft spoken. He
bought ice cream.
He bought ice cream and was distributing it into little cups. Bless him.
It was like, you know when you're like you're sneaking food or alcohol, and like, well, obviously it's halal in it, so it's like no alcohol, but he was sneaking the ice cream like it was like prohibition.
Prohibition.
Like, yo, he wants some ice cream.
You know, like when you got some gum in school.
Yeah, like
and you just got like a hide it
like,
when you're giving it to someone.
I got you, fam. Like, yeah, I got vanilla. I got the flavors for you. And he's like, he was just dealing it.
So apart from my vanity, why are we here today?
Apart from your vanity, Press Play is kind of like a project that I've kind of seen nearly from almost grassroots, but I mean on the second half of it, of the process. And then obviously you got my brother to like get in on the artwork, but why call it Press Play, and why did you decide to write a book of poetry now? Like,
sure. I'm going to try and be succinct. I think my interest in creativity and self-expression was sparked my late teens. So, my mid-teens, started listening to stuff like Tupac on top of all of the great music that was coming out of the UK, like Massive Attack, Blur, Oasis. There was a whole movement of just like great stuff coming out, and I identify with it even more because born and raised here, but just before I turned 12, Mum yanked me out of school, took me to Pakistan. I was there from 12 to 17. And so, yeah, music was a way of sort of connecting with my identity here, as someone who's British. Someone played me some old school hip hop when I was 17. Eric B. and Rakim, Naughty by Nature, Boogie Down Productions, Stetsasonic, like very old school 80s hip hop. I was just hooked. Like it finally made sense. Like for me, I've always been quite an erratic person in terms of my mood, when I'm interested in things or not. I mean, I wasn't diagnosed until I was 39 with ADHD and Autism. I actually got put into advanced classes for English, like after school stuff, and I dropped out because I didn't connect with it. I hated it. It was just a lot of people masturbating with words. But anyway, fast forward back to the age of 17, I started writing raps, started just writing. And I'd say from age 17, 18 till about 23, I wrote on and off quite a bit. I then just put a pause in my creativity around sort of 24. I graduated from uni, went to London, wanted to try and find a way to work in the creative fields. And I'd got various jobs as a runner in sort of TV and film, and just couldn't get a foothold. But also pay was rubbish. Like I was working £3 an hour, no contract, 6-7 days a week, just serving people tea, toast and stuff. It wasn't sustainable.
Was this like in 1990 something?
No, this was 2005.
You're
What?
rude.
No,
You're rude about, is this in 1990 something?
No. Because
How
like
old do you think
I
he
was,
is?
I was on like £4, 4 pence when I was doing
Bro, I was
supermarket.
earning £4. I was earning £4.91 when I was in 2014.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
at H&M. I'll name those bloody
H-
evil
bloody
robbing
H&M.
people. Like they robbed me.
But here it was different. I just couldn't quite. I abandoned my creativity. I abandoned it. I got involved with things I never thought I would. Like I never thought I'd get an arranged marriage. I capitulated with that. I really couldn't figure out where I slotted into in the world. So my family had a business. I got involved with that. And then, there's just a whole period in between. Marriage didn't work out. Family business didn't work out. But I did eventually move to London while I was still married. And yeah, I think basically for me, when you say why now, when my marriage ended, I was starting to, just parts of me that were dormant were starting to come back to life. I think, moving away from that relationship sort of helped, although there were lots of negative things that came with that, as they do. There are no breakups that are for free. There's always a cost. But yeah, I think during 2017 when that happened, I went to an open mic on my birthday, and it was my first open mic since about 2005, so 12 years. And I'd started writing, and yeah, just the bug hit me. I knew that poetry wasn't going to be the only thing in my life, but I described it then. I just knew it was a gateway drug.
Yeah.
So like that was the moment that you kind of pressed play, almost again.
Yeah,
that's cool.
that was the moment sort of press play, and I think the journey for me was, I spent 3 years, in a tumultuous divorce, a lot of legal stuff. During those 3 years, I performed as much as I could.
Yeah.
I wrote as much as I could. If I'm honest, and this is and many people disagree. I think Chani has many disagreements with me. She's a friend and a fellow poet, and she was also one of 2 editors on this book. That era, 2017 to about 2017, 18 and 19, it was definitely a period of like finding myself. Not really happy with anything I wrote during then. Really not.
Okay.
But it was a necessary part of the journey. Even then, when I was writing stuff, which, at the time I was like, okay, cool, I can write. I look back now and I'm like, whoa, I don't think I want to show this to anyone. I don't know. I just knew I wanted to put a book out. I knew that there was a bunch of things that I was really making sense of in life, which was figuring myself out, who I am, what I want, which I don't think ever sort of ends in life. I think, if you allow yourself to be, you're constantly evolving and changing. But I think during the pandemic, there was the breathing space and the freedom to just, from regular life, to delve deeper into my art. I knew I wanted to be creative even before then, but I was balancing either jobs that were too stressful, but were allowing me to sort of live okay-ish in London, or going the other end, doing brain-dead jobs where I was hanging by a thread, literally living below living wage in London, and experiencing a different type of anxiety. So I think the pandemic was a time to sort of really explore. And I continued to write, and I think I found my feet during 2020 as a writer. Like, I'd say that that's the beginning of where you start to see things in the book come from sort of the 2020 era onwards in my writing. But the stuff from 2017 to 2019, that's like the iceberg under the water. You can't see it. And even though it's not here and I wouldn't show it, it still props up what you see above the water. The pandemic was difficult. I myself got ill a couple of times, and it's led to some sort of longer term chronic things, which again, I'm in a very different place to what I was before. I don't actually dwell and talk about it as much, and I'm happy to sort of not, because that's just where I'm at. But I did experience some pretty deep losses. I lost someone very close to me, an artist called Ty, who's a close friend. He was like a big brother, but also someone who just, I've been listening to his music since about 99. So, I've been on an odyssey of listening to his music for about 21 years and being friends with him for about a good 20 of those. I think that impacted me. I lost my uncle also to COVID, to both my Ty and uncle. I lost them. And I think during that period, I just continued to write. Again, knowing I wanted to put together a book. And I think I started getting very confident in my writing. I knew that there was this period in my life, I think from the split onwards, that I wanted to document it, process it. Like I say in the beginning of one of the poems, I talk about not looking over my shoulder anymore. And I go, process it, document it, and then build. Let's press play to let the movie begin. I knew that a book was going to basically be a form of documenting this time, documenting it, and then just being able to sort of draw a line underneath it so that I don't repeat myself in my work, or I don't get fixated. I think what's really important in life, we all go through struggles, and we all go through different changes and different things that happen to us. It's important not to let yourself get fully defined by that and to get stuck in it. And I think that was also the really important thing for me. Like when I was putting together the book, once me and Chani had hammered the manuscript into shape, I went to Big White Sheds, which is run by Anne Holloway, who is a great independent publisher, also a great editor. Got a very strong, keen editorial eye. Even in the process of just whittling the book down, it became very apparent to me there was stuff that I could do without in the book, because actually you will get locked into repeating yourself and get fixed on certain things. So putting together the book, I think for me, I wanted to start something and I wanted to finish it. I wanted to have something that I could hold in my hand and that I could give to you. I think the reasons evolved over time. Like, I remember when I was editing and proofing the book, after a break of not having looked at the poems, and I remember getting very emotional and crying at certain points, because I was like, wow, this is almost like a gift where I've written letters to myself to remind myself either how far I've come, or how, I might be sitting wallowing in a moment, but actually there's more to life than that moment. It can be overcome, it can be transcended. And I think, the book, it has all those sorts of functions. in terms of how we picked the title Press Play, it was a bit of a circular journey. I wrote the book, or at least I wrote, stacks and stacks of poems, what I believe would become the book. And a lot of the times, I do have sometimes like these little bursts of ideas and inspiration, which 99.99% of the time, at the time when it happens, I'm like, I'm inspired, I'm a genius. And it's not always the case, as this story will sort of let you know. So I came up with the title. I said, Press Play to let the movie begin. That sounds like what I want the book to be. Then I actually came up with a poem during a free write. And actually, in terms of the journey of the book, where things really developed for me was I joined a writing group run by Gemma Weeks and Vanessa Walters. Gemma Weeks was based in London. She's now in St. Lucia. Vanessa, also from London, now based in New York. Two great writers who've now had books published, written for TV, or had their books optioned for TV or won awards. Great guys, very down to earth, very nurturing. I spent a good chunk of sort of, I'd say 2021 onwards, writing in Community Weekly with them. And I ended up writing a poem saying, Press Play to let the movie begin. And again, I just knew that was the opening poem. I knew it was the opening poem. As I went through the book, I talked to Charlie. I said, I don't know, I love the title, but everything we've got here, I can't seem to make it work. So we're like, all right, we're not going to have that title. And we tried to brainstorm a bunch of titles. We tried to force it. I think love is definitely a theme that comes together a lot in the book, or at least this period of my life. Whether it's platonic love, trying to figure out romantic love, love for creativity, love for community. There are all these threads that sort of definitely run through and I think are really, really important. And so I was just driving around and I had this idea. I was like, love takes shape. And I think we stuck with it. And then when I met Anne and we were agreeing to work together, I basically said to her, look, I'm going to be so frictionless to work with. I'm going to listen to you. She's like, I believe it when I see it. Mm-hmm. And so as we were shaping up, working together, she's like, what's the title of the book? And I said, Love Takes Shape. And she just said,
don't like it.
Don't like it. Mm-hmm. I asked her why. And I think she came up with some reasons around just, I think audiences might be a bit dismissive, might be a bit cliched, it's a bit wishy-washy. I can't remember what. I know that she definitely doesn't like love poems, and that it's a major concession that she let me write about love as much as what I did in the book. I think the thing was, she convinced me. The minute, she just gave a very succinct rationale, and I said to her, perfect, sold. I'm sold, as in you've unsold me on the name.
Okay.
And I said to her, look, that wasn't the original title. The original one was Press Play to let the movie begin. But I didn't feel the poems fit. And I said, what's interesting is now that I've actually sat and sequenced the book, because when I sequenced the book, one of the things that helped me was I ended up developing mini chapter breaks that were poems that I called intermissions. So it ended up taking kind of the format of like a movie or a play. I said to Anne, look, originally it was Press Play to let the movie begin, and it felt like it didn't fit, but actually now it could be an interesting candidate for the title. She looked at me, she's like, Press Play, that's your title.
So she shortened it.
Again, I was sold. Like I'm a very collaborative person. I think you'll notice this with this book. Like I work very closely with your brother as well.
Yeah.
Like I was very open to things that he had to say. I was open to what my publisher had to say. I was very open, publisher and editor, and my first editor, because the book was done in two stages, like pre-publisher and post sort of getting with the publisher. I took on board things that she said. I definitely pushed back on a lot of people as well, but it was like a push and pull relationship. So for me with the book, that's how the story of how the title came. And in terms of the book and why now, I had a lot of disagreements with people who are more successful than me. who felt that the book deserves a bigger audience, wait longer, get an agent, go for a big publishing house. I just knew that
it had to come out.
Yeah, you need to start the journey, right?
I had to get it out, and I think what I'm very lucky with is, at least in terms of how I'm working my publisher, I have every right. If a bigger, let's say further down the line, I've built my career up as an author. If a publishing house says, you know what, we want to revisit this and let's put it out to a bigger audience, I'm allowed to get it republished. So I actually have that level of freedom. So for me, it was like, okay, I just knew it was time. I knew it was time. Everything was sort of building towards it. And yeah, I think I made a proper intention last year, 2022. I made an intention at the beginning of the year that I was going to do this. I started saving up money because putting a book out isn't cheap in terms of promoting it, buying up copies so you can sell them and so forth. And 2022, I think towards end of summer, beginning of autumn, me and Shani agreed to work together. And my original deadline was to get the book out for June. Didn't quite hit that deadline, but I got it out for September quite comfortably. And yeah, it's probably one of my proudest moments in terms of putting my mind to something and getting it out.
I wanted to ask as well, because one of my favorite things is actually in the beginning of the book, which is the essay. The trailer essay. It's an interesting intro into what could possibly be, I know you're writing a book of prose, like loosely kind of like, well, not loosely, I don't know how, but like focused on your life. But the idea of this bit here where I fell in love, I won the lottery, that kind of stuff. These are all nice little slices of your story, especially closer to recent events, but even just the beginning where like I'm a Muslim, I originate from Pakistan. In fact, to be more precise, I originate from India, and that's what Pakistan was before 1947. So there's a lot of like backstory as to colonialism and stuff, but it's a really good intro to the beginnings of what was essentially part of history, but affects you as a nearly everyday man.
And the complexity as well. Like it is very interesting.
Yeah, that's really cool. So that was
I mean the essay again, like what this book taught me was that creativity is a wildly unpredictable process. So I remember when I was putting together the manuscript, I think I originally submitted to the publisher with just a stack of poems. So me and Shani started off with 118 poems. We decided that 113 of them could be potentially candidates after multiple rounds of editing. And I picked my top 60. And then I kind of just was like, I don't think this presents me in the best light. So I actually furiously sat down to create a manuscript 48 hours after submitting 60 poems to the publisher. And I remember just going, I'm really worried. I'm not sure there's a book here. It's a stack of poems. Printed everything out, laid it on the floor. Literally the whole book was on the floor. And I started just bunching together pockets and themes. And I was like, okay, if all of this can go roughly in this order, what's the connective tissue? So, for example, when I talk about a romantic relationship, I talk about, baguettes and chapatis, love, a mutual love of refined sugar. Like, each intermission talks a bit about what's going on in the next one. I think for me, when I put that all together, because I love movies and there was a lot of talk about, kind of having that vibe of like Blockbuster Video, because at the back of the book it actually says "Be kind, rewind," which is what they used to make people do when you have VHS tapes.
You have to rewind it like you have to, And I remember me and my brother, we'd rewind it like that so we didn't see anything, so we don't ruin like any of the shows.
That's good. Do you still have a VCR?
Like no, we don't still have a VCR. We've still got bare tapes though, like boxes on boxes of tapes. Like I don't want to throw them away because that's memories, That's you wouldn't just throw away a bunch of like CDs or whatever because it's like, oh no, like I'll find a CD player somewhere one day, like like I mean I have a CD player, like CDs, whatever. But so it's sad to think that VCRs, I'm just going to throw them away. No, I can't just throw them away. Like there will be a VCR player.
Exactly.
Somewhere.
So a lot of this was guided by kind of just certain retro, old school things rooted in memories and experience. Basically, almost like, feeling like I'm an analog kid in a digital world sort of thing. And once I put the intermissions together, I was like, this needs a trailer. And so I wrote this poem, which was this very, almost like list poem type of intro. And the publisher just said, look, I love the poem. I'm not sure, though, if this, even though you say it's a trailer and it's a great poem objectively, I just don't see how the book marries with that. This is not the trailer for that book, which again was, when I had press play, let the movie begin, I was like, that's not the title for that book. But my publisher's a very inquisitive person, very open-minded, very creative person. And she said to me, look, let's jump on a Zoom, talk to me. Please, 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 just chat to me, like, just talk to me, like, almost give me, the sort of expanded version of like just, what this poem is. We talked, and it was just this intense stream of consciousness thing that just came out, and we were both really emotional, like moist eyes, both sides of Zoom. And I think actually it was in the Cafe Omnibus while you were running a show.
Yeah.
Because I needed to do the call, so I couldn't hang out.
Yeah,
you show that you were running that day. And she's like, whatever you just said, let's jump off Zoom, write that down and capture it. She's like, put that down as an essay. And she's like, that can be like your foreword for the book.
Yeah.
Or the preface. And it's done in a very strange way because I do the poem trailer and then I do the essay. And it's fascinating, I think, how, again, with creativity and how things sort of connect. Because one of the people who wrote a blurb in this book is a British Pakistani author called Iqbal Hussain. He is British Pakistani, and his debut novel, Northern Boy, is coming out next year.
Oh, is that Gemma Weeks? She's got curly hair. Is that the same Gemma?
I'm trying to think.
You won't. I doubt you'd know
check
her.
Instagram.
Because I think. Oh no, maybe not then. Anyway, take on.
So with Iqbal, and I met him in 2018. Back in 2018, I spoke to him and I said, look, the first time I ever really hung out with British Pakistanis was in Pakistan, aged 12. And he's just like, stop. And he's like, and then you came back? I said, yeah, I came back when I was 17. Like, I left under Thatcher, came back under Blair. Well, I lived under Thatcher, left under John Major, and I returned under Tony Blair. And he's like, there's a book, there's a story in that. I didn't really feel a good enough writer to write. I really, really didn't feel like a good enough writer. And leading into what you've been saying about that essay, when I wrote the essay, I actually showed it to Jeffrey Bache, who's a writer who you should definitely get to know. He's done some great books like Musical Truth, Blacklisted. He's like a ex-teacher, ex-head educator turned author. And he basically said about the essay what you said, which is actually it could be expanded into a novel, prose.
For sure.
And what's interesting is because I met Iqbal many years ago, he's like, Haroon, that's basically the synopsis for the novel I told you about 5 years ago. And I was like, yeah. So
that's cool.
And actually, that is one of the things I'm working on at the moment. I'm working on an essay not an essay. I'm working on a novel which basically kind of unpacks everything that's in that essay, or at least a good chunk of it.
I wanted to drill down into some of the themes in the book. So you touch on your autism, ADHD condition, and then also obviously being British Pakistani, and then obviously love as well, and then obviously kind of navigating all of that being in London, being from the South London and stuff. And I love some of it is actually condensed to me into like My Name Is, where it's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Do you want to read it?
It's a 7-line poem. It's like a list poem. It's like, Haroon, not Harry, kingmaker, not king. To truncate a name, to amputate it, is to amputate history. And I thought that was quite powerful, like especially those last 3 lines, like to truncate a name, to amputate it. Like I think I don't know if you ever experienced like people like anglicizing your name, like do you like instead of Noor, do people kind of make that more English?
Well, like even Noor is like, it being anglicized. Like my name's Noor. Like so.
Oh,
and,
like to say.
And like Noor is not. Noor isn't that like difficult to say.
Yeah, like yours is Noor. Mine is actually Haroon.
Haroon, yeah.
Haroon,
exactly.
but my compromise I say is look, just say Haroon.
Haroon, if you can do one of the vowels correctly, it's alright. You know what I mean? But yeah.
Ultimately, the most important thing for me is just to elongate the vowels at the beginning.
Yeah.
You might not, because that r sound doesn't always work with a Western tongue. So I get that. I can empathise with it.
But do you know what I mean? Like, I'm never going to make excuses for why people can't say things. If I can speak perfect English, if my mum can learn to speak English and pronounce things when she moved here, she doesn't say them with, do you know what I mean? Like, then realistically, people can't. I'm not saying that you need to say everything perfectly with the exact, flavor, because maybe you know, but the ignorance is loud. It's loud.
I think as long as they kind of like they attempt to try and say
you got to attempt it. So I remember working. I remember working.
Well, I think when we were young, it wasn't attempted either. It wasn't a thing. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't really a thing. You were just the whatever noise that they wanted to call you.
Yeah, like
it wasn't
so.
Your
one
name.
of my favorite poems by like Swavi, because his name is not only Romeo but Tapiwa.
Yeah,
and his poem says like, "Oh, can we call you Tapwater?"
No.
I'm like, nah, that's like boying it. Like I think there's times when people try to boy it, like tap water is boy it. I guess
I've never used. I've known you for some time
take
now.
The piss. Yeah, I
guess
it's like
used
old
that
school
slang.
Yeah,
the pisket.
Yeah, try to take the piss basically. But like I think when you try to make it sound like that, they're just trying to like par it off. Like and I'm like
I remember when I was in year 7. Oh my god, I had these 2 friends. Yeah. And they sat behind me nearly every lesson just because of how like the names and the lesson plans or whatever, the seating plans or whatever. And when they found out, like, because I found out my name was Noor actually in year 7 through a supply teacher. My mum always called me by my middle name, Iman. Okay, Iman. So that was a whole joke, like for all my friends, like, oh my god, your name's Noor, ha ha ha. And then so these guys just Noor snores, and she ran into a door and she fell on the floor, and they would just go on and on and on and on. And it's like, yo, this is unnecessary. But my name's not even Noor. Like my actual name doesn't rhyme with any of these things.
So for the longest time, was like you being called by your middle name?
Yeah. Like I fully did not know that my name was Noor.
Okay. Did your parents just thought like that was more like a name that was more climatizable?
I guess Iman maybe was easier to say than Noor, because
I mean
they're both difficult. They're both I mean, they called me Iman or I can't even remember what they called me now, but it defo wasn't Iman. They defo didn't say that. Was it Iman? Yeah. Probably something like that.
I don't know.
What they said.
Like I remember, like I actually came from a Catholic primary school, but we had like one. Actually, he was my best friend at the time, one Muslim boy was a Pakistani was in my class, and his name was Imad, but like
Ahmed.
with an Imad.
Imad.
Yeah, Imad. Yeah.
Imad.
But I mean, to make it easier for everyone else, like you changed the I into an E. I was like Imad.
My mom tried to do that with mine. To put E-M-A. She used to write E-M-A-N, and I'd be like, my name is I-M-A-N, and my mom would be like, it's so that they can understand your name is Iman.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they don't need to understand my name is Iman. Yeah. I know my name is Iman.
But I mean, with some cultures, I know some Chinese friends of mine. Like,
yeah, they have other names.
Yeah,
they have
Western
Western names.
Western name.
They'll have a Western name, and then they'll have like their actual names. But then like parents will do that for their children as well, because they know that it will be easier for them to have like a job and stuff. And like for example, even like with my brother, like my brother's name's Adam, but it's also because Adam is a very conventional name. Like people can say Adam, like it's easy to say. But I don't know. It is the name thing. It is very. It's a poignant one.
Yeah. So with that poem, it's like to truncate it, which is a nice word to say to.
I love the word.
To like take off limbs, like like you're kind of
taking off the things that the meanings.
To just truncate is to shorten, and then from there and my mind went to amputation.
And also it kind of reminded me of like the idea of pruning a tree.
Yeah.
And the tree has roots in it, and obviously the bigger tree. The metaphorical tree is like a bigger picture of history, and we're taking away that history. Literally. And just to summarize it in 7 lines is quite powerful, and it's in a sense like doing the opposite, because these 7 lines show a lot more than someone tried to like truncate your name. Like it shows a lot. So I thought that was really interesting. There's a lot of poems here that kind of dance on. Dance, is that a right word? Is that a right? Like they kind of explore your kind of like you kind of say like your brain has like multi tabs.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, most of your poems are quite short, so it's like with everything open, and you've managed to like get quite short. But then when I hear you speak, you go into details. And like it, and then you, like you say, you meander sometimes, or you go off on a tangent, but then you come back. But your poetry doesn't do that. So it's just like, have you noticed that?
No, because when it comes to how I act socially, I mean, I've had significant social challenges most of my life.
Okay.
And a lot of it was just, for the longest time, I was just like, okay, I'm probably just very socially inept. Very socially inept. And I think getting diagnosed with ADHD and autism, it helped me make sense of that. Okay. And I think what's happened is that, and I'm a big advocate for this, in that I think you get diagnosed, you understand yourself better. And where possible, if people can be a bit more understanding, that's cool. But at the same time, the whole universe can't bend.
Yeah.
Reality cannot bend just to accommodate everything. The reality is that when you have this type of brain, I don't want to call it a condition, but when your brain is wired this way, you do struggle with turn taking. You struggle with interrupting. Ty, rest in peace, his nickname for me was Powder Keg, because I would explode during a conversation and just interrupt constantly. It's something I do less frequently now. When it comes to sort of turn taking and stuff, I try to be sort of mindful that I'm not dominating a conversation, whether it's in a larger social dynamic, or even just one-to-one with friendships, family, romantic relationships, all of that. I know my brain goes off in different tangents, but I've actually sort of learned to sometimes pick up and sort of come back. I think within writing, I don't know whether maybe I've just not had the time to do it. Like, I've never mindfully I've had to mindfully analyze how I speak and my behavior, because it just has such an impact on friendships, relationships, being able to, whether it's working for someone or working for yourself. I think with my writing, because I put certain constraints, a lot of the raw material gets developed in writing groups where it's a 5-minute free write. and there's prompts, I know that I have to start and end. I have to finish off somewhere, and I need to go and create a contour or a shape to make it interesting.
I think with neurodivergence, it's easy when, not easy, but it's easier when you have a clear start and end, because otherwise it can go anywhere, and we can go here, we can stay here and talk on this and be here. You
can be, but
that's why I enjoy prompts too, like, because.
But there has to be a cut-off point. Yeah. So in the poems, I still don't think my poems work in a linear way, in the way a lot of people's do. Like, it's come up a lot in the blurbs. It came up at a private reading that I did, which you attended recently at Poem Nouveau, which is I'm probably a closet or a frustrated rapper trapped in a poet's body. I'll say things in very succinct ways, and then I'll move to the next thing. I don't want to stay. I don't want to go talking for 5 minutes about trauma. I don't want to go talking 5 minutes, at least not in a poem, about
I've noticed that about your poetry as well. And I love that about your poetry, where you'll say something, and then it will almost be like you'll just say one line to almost capture your understanding of what you've just said, instead of having to go through all of those lines to explain that understanding. But that line just does it so beautifully, and you do that in many things. I remember your headline at BYOB, and that was a very poignant headline. Good, but that was a beautiful headline, because
I'll never forget it. It was one of the best.
Because I remember you ate. Let's say a round of applause for that headline. You ate, which is like you it's like you mopped up the
so
crowd,
basically,
you know, like you ate.
You like, if you're an actor, you would be chewing the scenery.
Right.
Yeah, you know, like that. But I mean, I remember that, and I remember that was a real poignant time for you, because I remember speaking to you like previously and afterwards about kind of like how important the set that you'd created was, like the journey that you like, you were very intentional with the journey, and you delivered that intention.
Yeah, there was an opening. And there was a closing, and then there was taking you on a journey. There were scenes, there were acts.
Yeah, there were acts to the.
And it was particular to that point in my life. Like, I don't think I could rehearse, do everything. Actually, I don't know. Could I do that set again?
Of course you could. You can do anything again.
Yeah.
Not exactly the way it was, because that's what that was. But it could be.
You can replicate the moment. It might be something a little bit different now.
It might
be
a bigger moment. It might be a different moment. There's levels and there's differences. But I think.
But I felt like I had something to prove to myself.
I think we always do, though.
Like, I really, really had to, because I think for the longest time I'd known that I can write. I wasn't sure about performing. Like, I wasn't even sure I was going to come back into it. I got pulled back into the scene as a DJ. Then I was around stuff, and then there was an autistic theatre troupe where I got to spend a lot of cold, damp, miserable Saturday mornings taking 2 buses to get to Barron's Court Theatre. I just had a chance to like rehearse and work through and sort of project my voice. And yeah, I like expressing myself how I like expressing myself.
That's the thing. I feel like with poetry especially, we shouldn't look at each other in terms of performance, because that's the beauty of like performance poetry especially. Everyone performs and does it differently. And it's beautiful.
Kind of. What I would argue is that I do feel that people write with the performance in mind.
100%, and you know what? They're not as heartfelt, as dope and as great and as energetic and as lit and as fun as they may be. They're not the ones that have you feeling.
But everything has to start with a text.
Yeah.
Like I approach it like you would approach acting. Let's create a text that rings true, and then let's dig into the text and let's look at what can I find an anchor in to give a good performance. It's something I talked to like another poet, Jodie, who's a mutual friend of ours, about. And I think just different art forms are for different things. So, for example, when I'm right now, where I'm cutting my teeth writing prose, I paint you very visual scenes, but that's different. There's it's just a different art form. with poems, I just am so influenced by the urgency of hip hop in particular. And, you know, the energy of just bouncing and going in different places. How my writing evolves as a poet over time, I don't know. It's going to be an interesting one to see, because it's a very particular way that I write in this book. But I don't want to keep repeating myself. So it's going to be what my style will be in the future, I don't know. Or in future projects.
And that's a beautiful place to be.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful place. It's a beautiful place to be where you're open. Because I don't think we should ever close. I don't think we should, like we were speaking before, when we started this, we should never say I am this or I am that. Like we are so malleable. We are sponges. We could be anything.
I think it's important to evolve. I think for me, I think the main North Star in writing, and I do it with prose, and I want to keep doing it with poetry, even if the tone and the voice changes. As long as when I read it out, it has its own cadence and rhythm. For me, that's always been the most important thing. Is, you know, does it just move? Does it work at a certain pace? Because
can anyone read it and it sounds? And that's the thing. That's the point of, like, you know, words and how beautiful, like, and just how making something rhyme can make it so much more digestible just because of that cadence, because people can follow that. Yeah, potentially. Sometimes it can go over. Yeah,
because sometimes I see people rhyming, and what people forget is that rhyming is a good way to potentially assist cadence.
Yeah, to accentuate your words. Yeah, your words shouldn't be going off to help you rhyme. It should be, you know, the other way.
And also just it's a good memory device as well when things sort of rhyme. I don't rhyme in my work, or I haven't really yet. But again, the guiding principle is always, does it just flow in a certain way? So for me, even if I'm not necessarily like making it rhyme, not all poems, but some of them can sound almost like I'm rapping.
Do you want to share one of your favorite pieces in terms of like the cadence and the way that it kind of sounds? How like
that's a good thing.
That's a good one.
Like the reading of it. Because I feel like there's there is, you're right, there's a natural cadence to words written on a page, which is so beautiful.
Is there a particular one that you can pick that stands out for you? Because it's a very particular question of cadence.
Yeah.
Well, I was just looking. I've been looking through the book.
Because one of my favourites is Wainana Jan.
Yeah, I was looking.
But I'm not sure that quite. Does that touch upon what?
Even if it doesn't touch, just your favourite.
Okay, let's. If we're talking about. This is the thing. It's like choosing children.
I'll have a look. One of the easiest ones is to say one of the intermissions, because it's very like that. You know what I'm saying? But then
the intermissions.
Any of the intermissions.
Should we do the trailer? Or does that not work?
What were you gonna say? No.
I was gonna say, why don't you read all the intermissions? And then there's a kind of like a
let's go with it.
You could do it because they're quite short. Yeah, you could do
quite short. It might get.
And then you've got a bit of a story.
Or do half of them if they take too long.
Yeah.
Yeah, but just to get an idea, like intermission 4 is quite cool.
Okay.
There's the repeat of love in intermission 4.
So intermission 4, baguettes and chapatis, love. Carbs and refined sugar, love. Anti-capitalist rants, love.
Yeah, so it's got kind of like a
like a clip.
Baguettes and chapatis.
Intermission 7, reparenting, self-love, self-discovery, autism, ADHD, integration, a flywheel operating in perpetuity, God willing.
God willing, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Even like intermission 9, where it's like kind of like drilling down into so
recognizing reflections in the mirror, adjusting accordingly, Pakistani, English, British Asian, British Pakistani, British Muslim, Anorka, Nitin Sawhney, beyond skin.
I like that you put.
I like that adjusting accordingly, because it's that code switch, isn't it? And
trailer, Mughals, East India Company, Jinnah, Nehru, Gandhi, Bhagat Singh, partition, migration, advertisements for Kew Gardens, migration part 2, cotton mills, Paki bashing, my beautiful laundrettes, Salman Rushdie, halal meats, beards, angry mullahs, book burning, cricket tests, Cricket World Cup 1992, cornered tigers, Allahu, migration, part 3, Anorka, Asian Underground, The Daytimers, Migration, Part 4. Cool Britannia, New Labour, 9/11, War on Terror, Control Orders, Home Secretaries, Failed Dreams, Failed Businesses, Arranged Marriage, Cricket World Cup 2009, Dil, Pakistan, Fatherhood, Divorce, Reinvention, Autism, ADHD and Creating Works of Heart, COVID, Bereavement, Loss, Grief, Love takes shape.
That's beautiful.
I loved, actually, that poem reminded me of, the use of language when poets use their, native tongue or mother language.
Let's talk about Swavi again for that one.
Swavi.
To see, when Swavi starts speaking, we start listening.
Yeah, exactly. We start listening. And you know why? Because I think when we listen to another language that's not English, you notice a rhythm or
you can almost feel what they're saying before before you know what they're talking about. You can feel it through what they're saying.
And there's
Whereas
a warmth
in English,
to it, right?
There's a warmth to it.
I don't know how English is. It's stressed, unstressed when you talk English. So it's I'm not really good with stressed, unstressed stuff, but
I get you.
Yeah, but even with when I talk to the Filipino poets and they use Tagalog, right? Tagalog is very choppy. It's Tagalog. It's very but there's a lot of repetition in our language as well. If you want to say, supposing I'll meet you again. Depending on your relationship with the person, it's kita kits. So it's very. Nice. It also sounds cute as well, right?
Yeah.
I love that stuff. So I love when people use language and. Also, it adds another color to your writing.
100, and it's that's something that so my friend recently, she just moved back to Pakistan. She used to live half her time here, half her time back there.
Yeah.
And she's not a poet. She's never been a poet, but she's one of my closest friends. So I often would go to her with the pieces that I've written and stuff. And she would often just say why don't you try writing in Urdu, because Urdu is the language of poetry. You know that, right? Urdu is poetry. She's very, very cultured. Mashallah, she's very she just wants to be a housewife. That's all she's ever wanted to be. She is that. That's and that's just I love that for her. I love that about. And she's she watches all the movies and she's listened to all the songs and she's from back home. She's very much that. And I've never really connected to that because I never really grew up around my dad's family or my mum's family. So culture's always been quite a difficult one. But
can you speak a language as well?
Yeah, I can speak it, but I don't speak it well.
Okay.
I can understand it fully, completely. But
incorporating it into your writing or your poetry or your
it's,
songs.
It's a bit more difficult because I don't know the best way to say something or the most beautiful way to say something. I'll know the way that I know to say it. Do you know what I mean? And it'll be half English or half Urdu type of thing. But when I was 19, I went to Pakistan for 2 months for my cousin's wedding, and I made it a thing. I told all my cousins, only speak to me in Urdu. I want to I want to improve it better. And they would all call me the English girl. When they would, that was just the thing.
That's
and
something
they were just the English girl, whatever.
Yeah.
But no, I was really trying. I mean, I feel when I came back, I understood a bit more, and that was better. And I even with my friend, I tried to speak to her in Urdu sometimes, just to keep that practice.
My Urdu is so rusty now.
That's the thing. It's so rusty.
I'm in my 40s because I've lived.
Because who do you talk to Urdu in?
Yeah.
Call me, Haroon. We will talk in Urdu.
Because the thing is, living in Pakistan between 12 and 17.
अब से उर्दू में बात करते हैं. देखते हैं मैं what's better gonna say?
No, but the lot.
I said, why don't we talk in Urdu from now on?
I don't have the energy to put subtitles in on the recording. No, but I struggled with Urdu for the first 4 years in Pakistan, and then in the 5th year,
you went there.
my khala, my mum's sister, she moved back from Saudi Arabia, and my mum's one of 10 kids. But this khala, they used to share a room together growing up. So they were very close. So I ended up getting close to one of her sons, one of the eldest. And I reached a point where a good chunk of that my Urdu went up like this in the last year. I actually almost stopped speaking English in the last year.
But that's good though. It's nice.
But then it all got reversed coming back here. I mean, every now and then it depends. Like I went to this thing called Jog Festival, which was like it was a festival celebrating literature from South Asia, but in Punjabi and Poetree, so the sort of Punjabi related languages, and just hanging out with certain people who are a bit older than me who do speak Urdu. It comes back to me in the right environment. It comes back to me,
and it comes back so beautifully when it does. Like when you're in those environments. Like
do you not feel like it's like almost dormant parts of yourself are getting activated?
That's the thing.
And I get that around certain types of music.
Yeah.
And even South Asian art.
100%. There's an artist I recently
like it's in our blood.
1,000%. And the crazy thing is that's something that maybe like with. Like I've not really grown up around it, so it's in my blood. Like it's not like I'm thinking of a time that I've seen it before. Like no, like I've never seen this shit before. Like but I have such a connection to when I see things that are cultural, and it is so beautiful, and it's definitely something that I want to explore more and touch more on, for sure.
In terms of like seeing representation in poetry with female Pakistani poets, like. There's a few people, but like how does that affect your poetry, or how does that inspire you?
It's so beautiful. I feel like it's such in other arts you don't really have it as much, so that's why it's so beautiful to have that in the field that I'm in, to have so many beautiful like women, even men,
even
like,
not even
like,
Pakistani, but just like South Asian,
even men, like to hear those perspectives. We don't have that. Like our fathers didn't talk, you know what I mean? So to see the perspectives of our brothers, like fathers, uncles, like the men of these ages as well, like whether it's women or men, it really, really, really is so poignant, and it is so beautiful because it's a very closed culture. Like I'm sure you would agree, like the South Asian community, it's a very closed culture. It's very much that that's even how I feel. Like I've never really seen a door to even step into to explore that and understand that, because I feel too far removed. Like it's not like I don't get the jokes, and no one's gonna sit there and explain the jokes to me. I've got to just watch the 3-hour movies, bro, and I can't do that. So it's just
Filipino sense of humor is different. Like
it's different.
My cousins or my friends get it, but I don't get it.
And you don't get it, right? Yeah. And it's difficult to. Where's that door to step in to get those things? Sure. It's hard. But with poetry, it's like, because there's all these different types of people and all these different types of women, because anyone can just step up, and even if they're a banker or a teacher or an artist, they're a poet as well. Yeah. There is more of that, and there's so many, like Kashmira Bashu, like phenomenal poet. She's actually traveling right now. She's with her partner. She was in Sri Lanka, Australia. She's South Asian, and I think she's Sri Lankan, but she's South Asian. She's got phenomenal, just her poetry it's so, it's literally, it's like healing ancestral, like, exactly. like it's healing ancestral, like wounds almost, like, and it's something that we all feel, we all hold it, because the generation before us didn't speak about anything. So it's almost like, we're talking not only on our stresses but on theirs as well, and it is beautiful to have that expression.
Segueing from that, in terms of like South Asian expression, like Haroon, with this book, like with it, you've distilled everything within yourself, apart from your background to your ADHD, autism diagnosis, being British Pakistani in London, being British Pakistani in Pakistan, like going forward, like, I mean, there's so much here that you've explored, that going into a new book, like in your, like another pamphlet or whatever, like, do you feel any more inclination to explore this, or are you kind of ready to explore different things now? Like, are you leaving this here as it is, or? So,
I mean, it depends on how you define different. I don't want to repeat myself.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's really important for me. That I don't want to repeat myself. I am exploring a pamphlet. The idea is to make it it would be an accompaniment for this book in the same way that Kendrick Lamar's Untitled Unreleased, Unmastered was Does to Pimp a Butterfly.
Yeah.
So I'd explore stuff that I really like, but just wasn't right for the theme of this book. I mean, the current idea I've got for the title of the theme is B-sides and outtakes, because that kind of, it just plays into me having these sort of quirky, cool little titles and stuff.
Yeah.
So that will be pulling on stuff that is still from here, but it'll be a pamphlet. It'll be smaller. I still need to do work on editing and refining it and getting the budget to put it out. I am writing the novel, which is the unpacking of essay, which again, it's going to explore these things, but in very different ways. Because again, different types of people read prose. Prose is a different experience to poetry. I'd say beyond those two projects, which kind of do offshoot from or build on certain things here, like the next time I do a full-blown poetry collection, the aim is to be exploring very different ideas and very different things.
Okay. Do you have an idea of what they'll be?
I don't know. I really, really don't know. I think the process is going to be a lot different.
Okay.
I think this time, I just wrote and I wrote and I wrote, and then I managed to discover a through line and a theme.
Okay.
I think I'm going to write and work on craft and just try and work with different styles and maybe see how I can make my voice evolve. Because at the moment, anything I kind of would write as poetry, and a lot of stuff I wrote, as I was putting this manuscript together, is still written in a similar style. So I don't want it to feel like it's from that era. I definitely think I'm going to want to try and identify a theme. Like, I think I'll write and I'll start identifying things, but then I'll actually write around it as opposed to building up and whittling down. I think I'm going to get to here and go, okay, what's interesting? And then like expand out. Like I
guess you have the experience of structure now as well.
Yeah.
Experience of structure. Like for example, I love looking at books like Poor by Caleb Femi or Mannerisms by Yomi Shode, particularly Yomi Shode's book, where there's like this higher theme that elevates it. And also in terms of prose, once I unpack that story that's in the essay, I'm definitely a lot more interested in like purely fictionalized stuff, because obviously what I'll write here will be I guess what they call narrative non-fiction. But I think for me, I'm starting to revisit lots of older movies, predominantly older, but just anything that really knocks my socks off. I'm revisiting TV, movie, anything where I just feel like, wow, they got the storytelling right. And I'm always just trying to sit down and analyze what worked, what didn't.
Yeah.
Because when I was younger, I wanted to write for film. Really, really did. I still want to tell stories. I think I do love writing, and I like the idea of. I think I'm always going to draw my own experiences and observations, but I think what I may end up doing is the work being less biographical.
And more the lessons being autobiographical.
Well, fictionalized. Like the thing is that you can write a memoir, for example, about your incredibly difficult relationship with your mum, or you can build this larger world, and you can basically take a very key and pivotal female character and inform them with your mother, hypothetically. Hell, you could even, the dynamics and the things that go on between parent figure or whoever, you can basically transplant it into that world. But I think the thing that potentially is going to interest me more over time is just creating tapestries. I think creating tapestries.
Like
I think
weaving different bits
yeah,
together.
I think there's things out of like direct sort of experiences of live life, things that I really do want to document and bring a lot of attention. Like for example, you talk about things like autism and ADHD.
Yeah.
I'm incredibly grateful that I got my diagnosis. I think what I'm mindful of is not to sort of let myself get defined by that.
Yeah, I think that
through
that's
all the work, like it's definitely a very influential part of me. But I'm also someone who likes to be really silly, crack immature jokes. You know, we listen to music, we chat shit. You know, we get super intense. Like there's just, I think for me more than anything, what I want to be able to do primarily as a writer, but I guess whatever other art forms things sort of take shape in, just want to explore just to express what it is to be human. What it is to be human, because I think
right through the human experience, so we can do.
It's really important. Like I said, you know, there's poems. They've helped me make sense of the fact that I have a particular type of lens due to my brain that looks at the world and so forth. But at the end of the day, we're all flesh, bone, organs, bloods, but we're also we're all basically spiritual beings having a physical experience, right? And I think that's the thing that I want to be able to. That's what I want to be able to sort of focus on within the writing, which is regardless of what we call ourselves, Muslim, Christian, Jewish, neurotypical, neurodiverse, straight, queer, whatever. Great expression, great storytelling. It cuts across all of that, because when something it just resonates, and I think I want to spend more time immersing myself with stuff that gives me that feeling, and then see how I can sort of express that in my own way and through my own sort of lens.
That's cool.
Lovely.
And just let people know where you can get the book, and we'll call it a day.
Right, so if you go to my Instagram at Haroon Creates, HAROON.
It'll be at the bottom of the screen.
Creates, yeah, it'll be at the bottom of the screen.
Wish Holly D was here. She does it so well.
I know,
Yeah,
she does.
she
It's
does,
it's because she was a dancer.
Yeah,
so she's just got the flick of the wrist going on, you know what I mean?
There'll be a link in my bio to Linktree. Within Linktree, there'll be a link. Or you can just Google, just go to, bigwhiteshed.co.uk, look in books, you'll find Press Play there.
And you guys can get that. Make sure you go to Haroon's website or DM him.
bigwhiteshed.com.
Or find him at the poetry scene, any events, BYOD, all that stuff.
I mean, bigwhiteshed.co.uk. Hopefully by the time this has come out, my website should be done, and that is, basically www.iamharoon.co.
But we're going to call it a day just because I'm aware of the time, and I'm sure Noor's got work tomorrow.
Work tomorrow.
Okay. So
I'm journeying from one part of West London to another to get you home.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Then I've got to journey south.
Yeah, and then obviously I've got editing to do. But thank you guys for joining us. And if you want more podcasts in poets' sitting rooms,
like this one,
let me know what poet's sitting room you want me to go to next.
And
there we go.
You'll be seeing a lot more podcasting from me in 2024.
Beautiful.
A lot of stuff I'll be doing with Metaforecast. I'll be doing a lot of stuff one-to-one on Zoom.
That's good.
Yeah.
Let's get it. Thank you guys so much.
Peace. Wicked.
Oh,
sorry.
Lovely.
Which cover did you want to buy, or are you going to buy one of each?